Gene Resnick, coming to you from Kaleidoscope 2018 from London. I have the pleasure to speak with Duncan Wardle.
Thank you very much.
Duncan is the former Vice President of Innovation at the Walt Disney Company.
Yeah.
So Duncan, you've been in the innovation game for many years. What are your sort of reflections, and how do you think the innovation business really has evolved?
I think there are three factors at work now. Artificial intelligence is the big one, and big data, and people are paying attention to it, which is good. The second one, which people are trying to get to, is moving from a product-centric, we build it, they will come culture, which worked from 1900 to 2012, and now it doesn't work anymore. So they're trying to become consumer-centric. Most of their C-suite have never spent the day in the living room of a consumer, and therefore they can't be consumer-centric. And they still remember the good old days, where I build it, they will come, and that delivered my quarterly results. So they're having a really hard time moving to become more consumer-centric. And then the third one is Generation Z. They are underneath the millennials. They care more about purpose than profit. And any organization who cares more about profit than purpose, they will eliminate them in less than 20 years. I've been hired by a couple of big organizations in the States now because they've realized that not only will they not buy their products and services because they don't think they're relevant, they don't want to work for them either. And then you see this generation, why does all these young people we just met, why do they want to be an entrepreneur? Because after 9/11 and after the mortgage crisis, they watched all their parents, aunts and uncles get laid off. They don't trust corporate America. And I say corporate America, that's unfair, corporate anybody. And so they want to work for themselves. And so that's why they're coming in. And so I think for a lot of big organizations, that Generation Z is the one they're focused on blockchain, they're focused on Bitcoin, they're focused on artificial intelligence, they're focused on moving to a consumer-centric culture, but they're missing the bigger piece. So if you think about the importance of purpose, Apple said, our purpose is we help you think different. Okay? Dell said we make computers.
Right.
Well, guess who's still making computers?
Right.
And so I think the other one was I did some work recently for a huge tool company, and I went to talk to them about innovation. I know nothing about tools, disaster at DIY. And I said, I listened to their consumer in Home Depot and Lowe's as they were at the point of purchase. And I said, look, they're not talking about your brand, the price point, or the tool. They're talking about what's important to them. We're going to build our dream bathroom, our dream kitchen, our dream living room. I said, your purpose could be, if you chose it, we are the brand who helps people build their dreams. That's a great purpose for a tool company. And I said, if you're a brand who can help people build their dreams, what other lines of business could you play in today that you can't? You're in the tool industry. And they said, why should we want to get out of the tool industry? I said, look, we're building in houses in 3D in Texas today. What will we buy on Amazon 10 years from today that we'll print at home? We save Amazon production, storage, and mailing. So it's in their interest. They'll probably give us the free. So I reckon 20% of what we buy today on Amazon, we'll print at home. If it's bigger, you'll print it locally. But if you can print anything you want for 10 years from today, what will you use the tool for? But because they're focused on quarterly results and not a purpose, they're missing the bigger picture.
So how does a big company with a C-suite made up of a different generation, who's been investing in innovation for the past 5 years, who has the usual innovation centers, who has the labs, who has the consultants, and looks at the ROI and sort of looks at the DNA of their company, and it's not rotating to be an innovative company.
No, it's not.
What should they do? What are some of the best practices that companies are doing today that maybe they've learned through the hard knocks of not being successful?
A couple of things. I was guilty. We made an innovation department. And the message we subliminally sent to the rest of the organization was, you're off the hook, mate, you don't have to worry about it. And so it's about embedding innovation into everybody's DNA. And you can only do that if you create, I call it a design thinking toolkit. It's a creative problem solving process that starts with consumer empathy, not quarterly results. But it's about making the tools easy and fun, so that Fred and Sally can use them when you're not around. Fred didn't go to MIT, didn't go to Stanford, doesn't have an MBA. You've got to make tools that are very easy and very fun for normal people to use. So you can embed it right through the organization. That's number one. I think accelerator programs work very well. We heard from Samantha this morning.
Right.
Well, Samantha made the prosthetic arms. She was part of the Disney Accelerator program. So we literally Shark Tanked. We put it out, said, hey, we're looking for some innovative projects. Apply here. Got 10,000 entries, whittled them down to about a dozen, brought them inside the organization for 6 months. They, as you heard Samantha, super passionate, knows what she's doing, but may or may not know how to build a business plan. Well, we surround them with a group of people who can build a business plan. And so within 6 months, we were able to take things to market. Those prosthetic limbs and the Sphero, they were in market in 6 months. That's a process that normally by corporate turf would take 5 years to go to market. But because the accelerator program, the people don't work for you. So they don't have to worry about the politics. They don't have to, and so accelerator programs are also a very successful way of doing it.
Okay, you mentioned design thinking, and clearly there's you see most companies now the stickies on the walls. You see every company really going down the design thinking path. You mentioned trying to make it simpler. I'd be interested in maybe some examples of what that looks like, because it seems like a lot of companies are getting stuck in a sort of design thinking process and can't really scale it into the core of their business.
You can if you train it through the organization. If the C-suite doesn't buy into it, you won't be successful. So we did some innovation projects, and when we started the innovation training, we started with Lucasfilms, Pixar, Marvel, Imagineering. Look at the most 4 successful arms of the Disney company. And so a lot of people, when you say design thinking, they say, what is it? It's starting with the consumer in mind and building from there. So an example, when we, back in 2008, we could have said, how might we make more money? That's how we all start. Hey, what can we do to make more money? If we'd done that, we'd have put the gate price up at Disney by 2% and moved our profit margins up accordingly. But instead of saying that, we turned it on its head and say, how might we solve for the biggest consumer pain point? And most people will recognize the pain point of going to Disney parks, as wonderful as they are, is the lines, the queues. Right? And so we said, what if there were no lines? And imagine a world where we might make that work. Well, fast forward as a result of that project, but by starting with the biggest consumer pain point and then out trying to solve for it, we created Disney's Magic Band, which is now in play. Everybody gets one at home before they arrive. It's their room key. It's their ticket to the park, it's their reservations for their favorite attractions. They touch merchandise once, it goes to their hotel room, twice it goes to their house. Save my food on the smartphone. When I walk into the restaurant, it knows I'm here. The average guest now has 2 hours free time a day. And what do we do with our free time in Disney parks? We spend money. Single biggest revenue generating idea since Disneyland opened July 17th, 1955. No significant capital investment required. Of course there was, but, and it was great because we got to work with Accenture on part of the program. But when you compare that to a new land, a new attraction, no. And now everybody talks big data, but everybody says, we've got big data. You're like, what are you doing with it? Well, we don't know. Every second of every day, our guests are telling us what they like and what they don't. So for example, we now know how many people come through our gates as a percentage by what time in the morning. So Fred, who used to work on the front gate 8 hours, I don't need Fred on the front gate anymore. I can redeploy Fred to 2 or 3 other positions during the day. His job's more fun, and I can lay off some of my labor costs.
So where do you draw the line? You sort of, the more you know the consumer, the more value you can add, the more innovation you can bring, the better experience you can make it. Clearly that gets into privacy limitations at some point. How do you get the consumer to really trust you and buy into that?
No, brilliant. Offer them something of real value. If I said to you, hey Gene, you'll never have to stand in line in a Disney theme park again, you'll say, here's my firstborn. Right? Offer them something of real value. If you offer something of real value, I mean, the amount of times I go online and you hesitate, do I really want to give them this information? If it's something I want, here, have my information.
That's true. Now the Magic Band is also a great example of human plus machine. Now you and I have both had the unique opportunity of meeting Sophia from Hanson Robotics, and it's really interesting, provocative, a little creepy to speak with her. So I'm interested in your views on where AI is going and really how it intersects with the human experience.
Yeah, it's excellent. I spoke recently in Guatemala with Sophia and Sir Tim Berners-Lee. And Tim Berners-Lee, his point of view was very interesting. He said, look, here's his concern, and it's the Zuckerberg-Musk debate. Is it going to be good for the human race, or is it going to eliminate the human race? Look, AI is going to make all of our lives a whole lot better. There's no question about that. I would like to see some form of governance. There was no governance around the internet. So if you walked into a junior school here today with hardcore pornography or directions on how to make a bomb, chances are you might get arrested. And probably rightly so. On the internet, have at it, because governments are run by old people and technology is frightening, and so it's just, it'll be fine. Drones, there's no governance around drones yet either. What makes us believe there'll be governance around, if there's no governance around AI, then I think I would agree with Elon Musk. If there is, I mean, I still believe AI is the future. I mean, there's no question about that. I mean, David's point of view is, if the universe was born over there and the human race is here, and what universe will go on there, as we seek immortality, we'll all have more parts built into us, and eventually we will become Sophia. But here's my answer. High tech will enable high touch, because there will be jobs that the next decade will be so disruptive. And they say, I think 30 million jobs in the US will go in a decade. That's a 10% of the population. But high tech will enable high touch for a lot of industries, but as long as they don't let the finance team come running in the door and say, hey, let's lay off everybody. And for certain industries you could do that, but for the hospitality industry, high tech enables high touch, which can make your brand step aside.
Right. So timing is the biggest unknown, and maybe what we wrap is, in 10 years' time, how different will the world be?
Substantially. Artificial intelligence is, by the way, I think executive MBAs and MBAs will be useless in less than 5 years because they're being taught the same way that they've always been taught. Education has to change, and it has to change much faster than it is, and somebody needs to, Sir Ken Robinson is a real advocate for that. But here's my bet. Artificial intelligence is going to take away strategy, going to take away planning, going to take away finance, going to take away IT, going to take away HR, going to take away legal. A lawyer might know 500 precedents, but the robot knows all of them. Who's going to win the argument? However, we're all born creative, we're all born with intuition, we're all born with imagination, and we're all born curious. They are innate to all of us. You can't program curiosity, imagination, innovation, and creativity. And so to me, those 4 skill sets will actually rise to the top in the next decade, because they'll be the 4 skill sets that can't be replicated by AI.
Okay, well, very good. I think that's a great place to wrap.
Cool.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your hospitality. It's been great. Thank you very much.